Hello to everyone and welcome to today's Cisco Automation Certifications virtual event. My name is Tanner Swift and I'll be your host for today's session. I'm excited to introduce some wonderful speakers for you today, but before I hand the mic over to our presenters, we do have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. Today's virtual event will be recorded and made available on demand after the live session, and the playback will also be available on YouTube for rewatch as well. We'll provide you with some further details at the end of today's event. Also, we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. During the session, if you have any questions for our presenters, you can submit them via the audience Q&A section on Slido, where we will answer your questions live or during the Q&A portion of today's event. You'll see some QR codes sprinkled throughout today's session where you can participate, so be on the lookout for those, as well as a survey near the end of today's session for you to provide some feedback for us. We'll do our best to get to all the questions we can, and if not, come talk to us on the Cisco Learning Network. So without further ado, I would like to kick things off by welcoming tech advocate Quinn Snyder, who will also introduce some additional speakers for you today who are excited to discuss Cisco Automation. Quinn, right over to you. Happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tanner. I feel lucky to be with this panel of esteemed individuals talking about the whole certification portfolio update as it pertains to our automation certification. So as Tanner said, my name is Quinn Snyder. I'm a tech advocate with Learn with Cisco. And today I'll be joined by my esteemed colleagues, Mubashir, who is our certification portfolio manager, who handles all of our Cisco certifications, as well as Francois, who is our learning product manager, focused specifically on a lot of our automation training offerings. So as a bit of a agenda for today, we've gone through the housekeeping. We'll talk about where the certifications have come from in terms of automation and where they're going. And then, because this is obviously focused on those certifications and how we're migrating them, we'll go through each of the individual levels. So our associate, our professional, and our expert level automation certifications and how they are being migrated from the DevNet name to the NA, NP, and IE certifications. And then we'll wrap it up with some resources that you can use on your studies and your journey, whether you're looking for the DevNet or the automation certifications. And then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. So just so everyone's aware, everyone is muted on entry. Please use the QR code that was provided for the Slido poll or Slido Q&A, and we'll get to those at the very end. And as Tanner said, we're going to be recording this, and we'll have it out sent via email as well as on YouTube. And with that being said, I would like to kick it over to Mubashir to discuss kind of our journey around the automation certifications and where they're moving to.
Thank you for having me here, Quinn. As we see, artificial intelligence is witnessing a remarkable surge in adoption and economic influence across various industries. Thanks to this increasing complexity of networks, the need for efficient management solution, trends in automation technologies are also looking towards a significant growth. The network automation market itself is estimated to be around $31 billion by 2025, and is expected to reach at $88 billion by 2030. With this, we are simplifying Cisco certification frameworks to make it easier to identify your certification path with the names you know best. And most of our certification will now follow these three certification levels: CCNA, CCNP, and CCIE. Our evolving automation certifications are built on the foundations of DevNet and are designed to support the next generation of networking professionals whose careers are being shaped by the emerging influence of AI and intelligent infrastructure. With our updated exam, you will not only have the skills advantage, but also the hands-on practical knowledge to face real-world challenges in the day-to-day operations of multi-vendor network automations. So effective February 3rd, 2026, all DevNet certifications from associate to expert level will be rebranded to CCNA Automation, CCNP Automation, and CCIE Automation. So our DevNet Associate is going to be rebranded to CCNA Automation. DevNet Professional is getting an update and is being rebranded to CCNP Automation. DevNet Expert is going to be rebranded to CCIE Automation. As I said, in our professional level, we are doing major updates to DevCore, EN Auto, and DC Auto. So these exams are going to get a major update in their exam topics. While we are doing this, we also identified some of the exams that we are not going to be continuing with. So CL Auto, SP Auto, S Auto, and DevOps are going to be UL. Last day to test the existing exams is going to be February 2nd, 2026, and the first day to test on the updated exam is going to be February 3rd, 2026. The expert level exam will only be rebranded and no updates to the exam content will happen. So the Dev Associate is going to be migrated to CCNA Automation on February 3rd. Please note there is no changes in the exam topics from Dev Associate to CCNA Auto. So if you are someone in the process of preparing for your exam, Dev Associate, I would recommend continue doing as per your plan. Even after the changes, the topics will remain the same. All current DevNet Associate holders will be automatically migrated to CCNA Automation on February 3rd. No action is needed from your side. All certified people will be able to download the new badges from their profile on February 3rd, 2026. As I mentioned earlier, all exam topics remain same. The only changes that you will see from Dev Associate to CCNA Automation exam is the product names that have been updated. Like Cisco DNA Center is now Cisco Catalyst Center, Cisco SD-WAN is now Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN, and Umbrella is now called Cisco Connect. These minor changes were needed to keep our exam topics aligned with the latest product names that RBUs are using. On the DevNet professional level, we will migrate to, so the DevNet professional will migrate to CCNP automation on February 3rd, 2026. In addition to rebranding, we are also doing an update on the core enterprise and the DC automation exam at the professional level. Please note all current DevNet professionals will be migrated to CCNP automation on February 3rd, 2026. And if you are someone who has done a core or a specialist only in the DevNet track, you will receive the relevant core or specialist badge and will be eligible to attempt the core or specialist to achieve your CCNP automation. All other automation exams, SP Auto, S Auto, CL Auto, and DevOps at the professional levels will be UL'd on February 2nd, 2026, and will not be eligible for migration. Now we move on to Francois to highlight some of the changes that we have made at the professional level and explain those to us, what is actually changing at that professional level.
Thank you, Mubasher. So like we've seen, the CCNP is really where the bulk of the changes are happening. The first thing that Mubasher told us is that there's going to be now only 3 exams, and I'm going to walk you through the updates of the content of those 3 exams that are going to be remaining in the CCNP automation. So the first one is the core. We are renaming it from DevCore to Autocore because everything is auto now. Automation is the new theme. It's remaining a 120-minute, 2-hour exam, and it is also remaining a dual-purpose exam. What we mean by that is that this is both the core of the CCNP automation, but also the written exam for the CCIE, which Mubasher will talk about later. But in order to take the lab for the CCIE, you will need to take this as your written. So once again, this is a dual-purpose exam. And this is the exam that has seen the largest rescoping in terms of coverage of the 3. And I'm going to walk you with Quinn through all 3 of them. The one thing that we've done when you go and look at the exam blueprints, which is this typically 1-2 page PDF document you can find on our website, we'll have the links in the resources in about 20 or 30 minutes. So don't worry, we'll give you the detailed documents. When you look at that exam blueprint, that exam topics, you're going to see at the top of the document a list of all the technologies covered. So you will know, as you prepare for the exam, as you go into the exam, you will know exactly which APIs, which automation, which product we may ask you questions about. So the core, being the broadest exam, is going to cover the broadest portfolio of technologies: iOS XE, ACI, Meraki, Catalyst Center, Catalyst SD-WAN, ICE, a little bit of WebEx. And the whole idea here is that we're not going to ask you to memorize the entire API documentation of all these products. This is not what that list is. This is all the list of the products on which we may ask you questions about automating. So if we ask you an Ansible question, it probably will be on iOS XE or on Calendar Center. And that way you know that if a product is not on this list, you're not going to get a question on it. So in this exam, you will not get a question on NXOS with Ansible because we did not put NXOS on this list of topics. So for every exam, there's a course that's coming, of course, available on Cisco U and from our learning partners and an in-person training. All the courses are right now scheduled to launch in what we call Q3 FY26, which means the third quarter for fiscal year, which is a long way of saying around the February-March timeframe. Like Mubashir told us, all those new exams go live on February 3rd. We're anticipating the training to launch around the same time. What we're going to do is before that, in the fall and early winter, we're going to start doing some early releases, partial releases of all this training for all these exams. And I'll touch a little bit more on this later. But the main thing I want to talk to you about before we dive into the topics is training is coming, stay tuned. So the first one, the first exam, Autocore, is now broken down into 4 domains. There's 2 slightly larger domains that represent 30% and 2 slightly smaller that represent 20%. And that your effort, your practicing should probably line up with that because that's the way the question count is going to be assigned. The first thing we're going to cover is network automation. Quinn, what are your main topics that you see in that section?
Yeah, so just drilling in a little bit deeper with the reduction of domains here, for those who have seen or looked at the old DevCore blueprint, there was a lot of software development pieces here. We've kind of removed that, and in lieu of the software development lifecycle, the 12-factor app, all those things, we focused really on that network automation piece. So asking you to do something that you would do in your daily job if you were a network automation practitioner, network automation developer, network automation engineer, pick your title there. So it's really about supporting those network automation solutions across a variety of platforms. And so what's called up on the slide there is your Ansibles, your Terraforms, your Pythons. Part of knowing, back to your point, Francois, about the technologies that are being covered at the top part of the exam topics list, we all know that Terraform isn't supported across all of our platforms like iOS XE natively with, I know we can do some stuff with RESTconf, but there are other platforms that may not necessarily support Terraform. And so being able to call out when is the best solution to use, or what is the best tool to use for the solution, how to adopt it is really critical. And so we've really focused on that network automation piece within the platforms themselves.
That theme you mentioned of understanding the target audience as network automation engineer, I think that really carries over a lot in the second domain also, which is infrastructure as code. We're not expecting you to understand Git, CI/CD pipeline, and GitOps like a developer would, someone who's building applications all day. We're expecting you to understand this like a network automation engineer would. And that's why we're combining this with some very networky bits like CML, Cisco Modeling Labs, which you can use to create digital twins of your network and test your automation into. We're also going to be including network single source of truth there in that section. So we're really refocusing on a target persona, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so being able to understand how those pieces play into that infrastructure as code, those CI/CD pipelines, we're not doing things like static code analysis. We're not looking at things around vulnerability management and shift left and all those things. Obviously security is an important part of it, but being able to integrate the network components into your infrastructure as code, your CI/CD operations, that's really, again, more that refocus there. And it dovetails nicely into a lot of the operations because you can test until you're blue in the face, with all your infrastructure as code tools, but you need to know what's happening after you deploy the operation to make sure you don't have any of those resume generating events, as we call them in the business.
Yeah, that's part of what we have in this operations sections: logging, PyATS, making sure that the automation actually works, which is an important aspect of automation. We should probably now talk about the 20% elephant in the room, which is AI in automation. I think we were somewhat deliberate. I'm sure if you're sitting here and watching this today, you've all heard everybody from Cisco talk a lot about AI. we were very targeted in what we're covering here. Quinn, you want to touch on this a little bit?
Yeah, and so you can you'll always use the exam topics as your reference here, but our focus in the AI portion as it pertains to Autocore was a couple of different items. It's we know that using generative AI for automation is important, right? It's a way to rapidly prototype and to get ideas and to work through hurdles rather than having to search endless hours on some Stack Overflow or other kind of developer-y site that may not be focused on network automation, but generalistic, programmatic and programmability and stuff. But in addition to that, we know that LLMs aren't the be all end all. And so being able to understand LLM security and data sovereignty and things like that, understanding LLM hallucinations, how can we verify, or being able to spot incorrect code is important. And then the meatiest piece of the AI and automation is really focused on MCP, and we are living in an agentic AI world where we have these specific agents that are being developed by individual business entities within Cisco as well as other vendors, and being able to connect each of those MCPs, each of those agents via MCP into your LLM is going to allow us to broaden that scope of AI, and it's what we're doing internally with some of our products as well. So being able to prototype and build and develop an agent using the MCP framework and being able to connect that in your LLM is the most probably the largest portion of that AI and automation as it pertains to the Autocore. But again, it was deliberate. It was something that was tangible, realistic, and could be used today, and not just some we may think this is what's going to be in 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, we try to keep the marketing out of our certification and focus on the actionable technologies. Awesome. So this is the core. This is, like we said, the CCNP core / CCIE written. Let's now talk about the 2 specialization exams. I'm going to remind everybody, you only need to take one of these 2 to get your CCNP. You don't need to take both. The first one is enterprise networking. And if you take this with the core, you get the CCNP automation. If you take this with the enterprise core, you get your CCNP enterprise. So this is, once again, a dual purpose thing. This is a specialization that counts in 2 different CCNPs. So you can think of this as a fast track to 2 CCNPs. These 2 specializations, data center networking we'll get to in a second, are both 90 minutes. So they're slightly shorter because they're more focused. And similarly, the technologies covered are more focused. This is only enterprise networking, iOS XC, Meraki, Cat Center, SD-WAN, ICE and Thousand Eyes. I should point out and Thousand Eyes, which are somewhat new addition. I think, Quinn, we didn't cover those in traditional EN in the past.
No, we didn't. And some viewers of this may recoil in horror at seeing ICE because it is such a large piece. But the idea being behind that is we're not asking you to develop ICE policies or to be able to create synthetic tests using Thousand Eyes. The idea being able to leverage those APIs and connect them as part of a larger automation solution. In much the same way on the core exam, we talked about things like the network source of truth and Cisco Modeling Labs being as part of your CI/CD and infrastructure as code operations. These are just being able to connect disparate bits and snap them into a larger automation solution. So you can rest a little bit easier in regard to those 2 platforms specifically.
Yeah, there are some domains of the things you do in enterprise networking, controller-based automation or operations, where you need the integration with security that ICE gives you, to build things like Fabric, or you need the testing that Thousand Eyes give you for testing an operation. And as you build automation, you need to test things and make sure it works. So, but let me start at the top of these topics. We're starting with a relatively small domain at 10%, which is network automation foundation. This is the protocols, right? When the basics.
Yeah, and within the EN space, everything is modeled off of, everything's built from Yang models, and it's modeled in Yang, right? And so being able to understand Yang models and being able to interrogate those models via either netconf or restconf that are still hitting that same Yang back data store on that device if you don't understand that, then there's a large chunk of missing understanding from a foundational level with the EN platforms. And so while we do want to focus a lot on the solutions themselves in both this domain as well as the DC one, which I know we'll get to in a little bit, we wanted to make sure that there was a base level of understanding of the foundational topics that are very important in that respective architecture and domain for those different platforms.
And from this foundation, we go to the usual duo of device level automation versus controller based automation, and I'm going to talk about both at the same time, because I think most of you in the real world will have to decide, depending on which platforms you have and which controllers you have, how to do your automation. And it's not a either or. This is a why not both in some cases. So we're going to start with the basics of device level, which is NetMiko automating the CLI, and then doing that in netconf in Python with NC Client, doing it with Ansible, which gives you some nicer tooling on top. And from there, we'll then show you and expect you to learn how to do the same thing with our controllers, with Python, with Ansible, with API. So really broad coverage of the different approaches there, Quinn, right?
Yeah, and it's because not one is not better than the other. To your point, it could be a better together story, or there may be places where we need to use one versus the other. I think of a distributed branch location where you may not have controller coverage of all of your different platforms, or maybe using different platforms in a branch versus in the HQ. And so being able to do both of those is pretty important. And then to your point that you made earlier around the Thousand Eyes piece, being able to say, no matter what platform we're doing, or no matter what automation style we're doing, whether it's device level or controller based, being able to talk about the validation, the testing. So are we getting the right output from our automation? Is the network behaving the right way? And how can we not just go based on vibes, right? How can we use the tooling that is available either through things like Thousand Eyes or through tools like PyATS to ensure that the network is not just, we think it's behaving correctly, but we have those synthetic tests and the proof that it is not the network, because everyone blames the network first and foremost.
So Quinn, you mentioned vibes. I think that takes us straight into AI. Once again, we have an AI topic at 15% here to close this list. And once again, it's focused on NCP, because today, the way we see people starting to automate their network is MCP, right?
Yeah, well, and it's being able to connect those different agents, and not to make this an AI focused conversation, but some of the AI canvas platforms and things that we're releasing are based on agentic AI, and so being able to understand that operation and knowing how to connect those into your LLM and using them to create alerts or some conversational chat bots or things like that is important in today's world, as well as the table stakes of LLM code generation and being able to spot the hallucinations and things like that. So you'll see some overlap between the Autocore and the EN Auto 2.0 in terms of the topic list. There's a slightly smaller weight in the EN Auto, not because we didn't think it was as important, but because we had to kind of do some horse trading at the very end to make sure we covered everything appropriately. But for those studying for both the Autocore and the EN Auto, you'll see some overlap there. So it hopefully won't be too much of a leap as you're going through your studies and trying to pass those two if you're looking for the professional automations certification. Yeah,
makes sense. Definitely an area where there'll be one of the most overlap between the two. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've now covered this enterprise networking. Let's move to the data center. This is an exam, DCN Auto. You hear me emphasize the N because this is probably the most rescoped exam of the series. The reason I'm saying that is the traditional DC Auto was the entire Cisco data center portfolio, which includes networking with Nexus and compute with UCS. We realized when we rescoped this that people who do network automation in the data center care more about the network in the data center. So this exam is rescoped to cover just the network in the data center. And this is very visible in the list of technologies. This is an XOS, Nexus Dashboard, ACI, Nexus Hyperfiber. This is Nexus, Nexus, and Nexus. I think we're covering Nexus here. This is 90 minutes, just like the enterprise networking specialization. And just like the enterprise networking, this is an exam that counts towards the CCNP automation and towards the CCNP data center. So once again, fast track to 2 CCNPs if you want to go that route. Let's talk a little bit about the topics. The first one is the same one we saw before in EN, and you're going to see some parallels between the two. I mean, they're both networking exams, network automation exam. Which foundations are we covering here? Slightly different topics in the data center, Quinn?
Yeah, and you'll see a slightly heavier weight. And I think, well, I know when we were discussing and going over these exam topics and the weights and things like that, there is just a more stuff and newer stuff, I should say, to cover in those fundamentals. I mean, so we're familiar with the NetConf because we talk about it in the space of or the context of enterprise networking. But within the data center, there's a lot of other platforms, especially because companies like Cisco and others have been pushed by the largest of cloud providers to ensure that there's a lot of different protocols for configuration and telemetry that are more open and robust across a variety of platforms. And so from a NetConf perspective, whereas in the EN Auto, we may be looking more at native models, from a DC networking, we're looking at things like OpenConfig and GNMI and RPC and GNOI, those open vendor agnostic platforms that you can use for configuration and network telemetry coming back out of your devices. So similar foundational focus, but different topics and a different areas of coverage, simply because of the demands that are being driven in the data center are different than those being driven within our enterprise networks.
Yeah, this makes sense. And this is why we have two separate exams, because data center networking automation and enterprise networking automation have evolved in slightly different directions. Yeah. And we'll see that in the second domain, the infrastructure as code. I mean, the GitOps part is the same as you'll see across the different things. Pipelines are pipelines. But here you'll see us using some of the tooling like Ansible and Terraform. For example, we didn't do Terraform as much in enterprise networking, whereas there's wide adoption here in the data center. And so, Quinn, you want to touch on that, Teddy?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, whether we're looking, and I'll take the infrastructure as code piece and our network element programmability, because while we didn't specifically call out things like controller versus device based, that infrastructure as code piece, especially when you look at the platforms and the specific exam topics that are being called out in domain 2 and domain 3, there's some parallels there, right? So it's a similar structure, but slightly different presentation. But again, we're focusing a lot on from the infrastructure as code piece, those open platforms that are vendor agnostic. I mean, obviously this is a Cisco certification, but we know that the reality of the data center is that there may be one or more vendors that exist within there. So being able to use elements like Ansible and Terraform that can be spread not only across your entire data center, but also in the cloud as well, to be able to provide that bursting and connectivity is critical. And then with the NC client piece, using those open config models and being able to drive some automation using NC client is pretty important there as well.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned controllers. We covered both NDMC and ACI in there. There's one thing I want to point out which is unique in this exam of the three. Under operations, we're going to cover testing, validation, same kind of topics you see in the operations on all three. We are also here covering container networking. We had a deliberate discussion when we were creating this exam that even though this is a Linux topic more than a Nexus topic in many ways, this is a systems topic. But if you're going to be automating networking in the data center, you need to understand the foundations of container networking.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, containers are the new VMs, or so I've been told. And so being able to understand how that container networking, the virtual leads, the bridges, some of the natting that goes through, some of those overlay pieces, those are incredibly important because, to your point, Francois, even though they are a systems-based thing, if you can't assist in getting the traffic across from the system into the network, you might as well not have a network at all. So being able to understand and diagnose and troubleshoot that from an operations standpoint, especially because of the rise of containerized workloads within the data center, we felt, again, another divergence where it was important to call this out specifically in the data center because it is such an important topic and foundational piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once again, we close with AI. In this exam, it's only 10%, not for any reason other than we had a lot of other things to cover. I think that's the fairest way to look at it. But we're going to be covering some of the same topics as we do in the other two. So yeah, I don't know if we need to cover that somewhere. I think we should probably go to Mubashir now, and let's talk about the CCIE, the crown at the top.
So yeah, there's a lot of exciting changes that are coming at the professional level, and they're going to get you ready for your expert level exam. So similar to your associate and professional level certifications, DevNet Expert will be migrated to CCIE Automation on February 3rd, 2026. The good thing is there's no changes in the exam topics for the expert level exam. So as of now, so if you are someone who is in the process of planning to do the DevNet Expert or CCIE Automation in the future, I recommend you continue your journey as the switch happens. All are DevNet Expert certified candidates. So whoever has already achieved this crown and they have their DevNet certificate, DevNet Expert certifications, those candidates will be migrated to CCIE Automation on February 3rd, 2026, and will be issued the new CCIE badge to download from their profile. And to help you guys prepare for this, there's a lot of resources, and we'll go to Francois to discuss some of those resources that are available to you today to prepare for these exams.
Yeah, thank you, Mubashir. So let me walk you through a few different resources for all of these exams. The first two I want to talk about are general skills training that we have at Cisco U and also available through our partners. The first one is PRNE, Programming for Network Engineer. This is a course we've had for several years, and it teaches you the fundamentals of Python in the context of network engineering. So the type of exercises you do are going to be focused on network automation as opposed to generic Python courses that exist out there. The second course we have, which is something that is launching in about a month, early October, is iPine Intermediate Python for Network Engineer. That course is meant to be a sequel to the first one I just mentioned. And it's going to start you with a quick reminder, quick refresher on the basics of Python, but quickly it's going to dive into more advanced topic, walking you through use cases, actual use cases of network automation in Python. And there's even an AI section in the end where we talk about querying local LLMs. So these courses are not aligned specifically to the three certifications we talked about, but all three certifications include Python, so the Python knowledge you will gain in this would be useful for all of our certification and for your real life, realistically. So that's it for the general Python skills. We also, of course, have specific training for Autocore, EN Auto, and DCN Auto. These, just like the certifications, are going through a major revamp to adapt them to the new blueprints we just walked you through. So expect those to launch February, March timeframe, around the same time as the exams. However, we're going to be doing partial releases before that, starting around December, January timeframe. We want you to have some materials to be able to start practicing. So please watch for early releases. We're going to be talking in a minute about where you can go and get other resources and subscribe and newsletters and all that. Listen to all those things, because that's where you'll find out when we do early pre-release on our certification training. And finally, we just want to remind you we have a roadmap for our certification. It's a web page on our site that we update all the time, where we show you our yearly roadmap for all the different topics that we certify. So these are the resources specific to this. Quinn, can you walk us through the rest, please?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of, so whereas Francois was covering a lot of the resources that'll be coming out available through Cisco U, some of them free, some of them paid, some of them early release. This is focused strictly on a lot of the free resources that we have that are available. So from the first link is from DevNet Automation. It's a discussion forum, but it's really around a video series that Francois and I are putting together that focus on the domains of the Dev Associate / CCNA Automation, going through kind of our tips, tricks, I won't say exam hacks, but just little things to look out for and how to connect each of those exam topic items back in a meaningful way to assist you in your studies. And so that's an ongoing video series. We have ongoing discussion there as well. Links to the playlists that are available through YouTube and things like that. So if you're interested in going down and getting started in the associate path, it's a great resource to use as part in bolstering of your studies. If you're interested more in the whole background and the reimagining of what we've done for our certifications that Mubasher was talking about earlier, the second item there really talks about some of the history and the migration and summarizes in a concise way that it's easy to share among study groups and things like that for how we're moving our certifications. And it has links to the exam topics for each of those new exams, as well as the ones that have existed as well in those embedded in links in that blog. So it's a great read there. And then the last two, the first two parts of a 3-part blog series that I've put together around kind of the what and why of what's changed around the professional certifications. There's a lot of people who were I wouldn't say worried, but they were kind of pondering what was going on within the automation space at the professional level. And so I kind of gave that insider's baseball. Here's the discussions that we had. Here's why we made these changes. Here how this impacts you, and here's why we feel these changes model more closely to what you're being asked to do in the industry, more so than that software development piece. So each of those 2 blogs, one for the Autocore, one for the EN Auto 2.0, walk through each of the domains and what's changed and why in depth. And then within the next week or so, there will be a third one for the DCN Auto as well, but it has not been published. But it's a 3-part series that covers each of those certification exams as we've changed them. And I think that brings us up to the very end. So I appreciate everyone kind of bearing with us. And now I think I'll kick it over to Tanner. I don't know if there's anybody that we have any questions have come through the Slido poll. We've had our panel of experts here, so we're all ears if there's something that's come through on the Slido.
Really appreciate it, Quinn. Thanks so much. Just as Quinn mentioned, we've reached our Q&A portion of today's event, so we'll take some time for some questions now. Just a reminder, if you do have a question, you can use the Q&A section via Slido and the QR code on your screen if you'd like to participate. If we can't get to your question today, feel free to come on talk over to us at the Cisco Learning Network. We have a wonderful community of certified individuals who can help you out over there as well. And before we get to our first question, just as a quick reminder, because I've seen a number of questions of people asking about resources and stuff that we just went over. If you're waiting on books and Cisco U content and that sort of thing, it's coming soon. In the meantime, we urge you to view and download those automation certification exam topics on the Cisco Learning Network to help aid you in your studies between now and then. So let's get to our first question here. And this kind of builds off something that you discussed on the CCIE portion things, Mubasher. Let's say I've already started studying the existing Cisco U content for DevNet Professional. Is that now something that's obsolete, or should I just wait for new content?
So, as I said, if you're somebody who's preparing for your CCIE exam and you are prepared, so what you are doing is you are doing your core exam preparation right now. So I would say continue doing your core exam preparation. If you pass your core exam before February 3rd, that core exam is still valid for you to attempt your CCIE automation exam. Or if you want to attempt DevNet Expert before February 3rd, it is still valid. So either way, your exam is still valid. If you pass your DevNet core exam, you can use it for CCIE automation exam to attempt your lab exam. So all of that is already in the plans. I would say continue your preparation. Do not stop right now. And if you pass, you still have a chance to attempt your CCIE automation.
Great. Thanks so much. Believe it or not, we do have some questions on AI. So let's get to one of those now. This one from Clinton. How would you say that AI is shaping the future of Cisco automation, as well as trying to be like a cybersecurity analyst?
Well, I mean, AI is if nothing, it's keeping us on our toes, right? I mean, so there's a variety of things that come with AI, and we're starting to see a lot of those come out in terms of, hey, we're including them across all of our blueprints in a meaningful way. We have the AI automation, AI infrastructure elective for the CCDE. We have the AI portions in our new professional exams. We've added them to the CCNA. More broadly across a product portfolio, we're incorporating AI into more and more of our products and being able to use that to create meaningful signal out of all of the noise that comes out of a network from a logging and visibility perspective. So I think it's changing those, the products and the way that we can iterate and use and glean actionable data out of the network pretty well. In addition to, again, things like LLMs to generate a boilerplate or templated code. From a cybersecurity standpoint, the world is your oyster. I mean, the leaks that have come out through prompt injection, through ways that you can manipulate or exfiltrate data that shouldn't be in public LLM resources, finding ways to secure and prevent people from sending personal or PII or company IP into LLMs. Is it's creating a whole new threat vector for organizations and enterprise. So it's changing the automation space, it's changing our platforms, and then, like I said, it's greatly changing the cybersecurity landscape for companies and individuals alike.
And from our perspective, from a certification perspective, we have started including AI in some of our cybersecurity CCNA and professional exams. Also, we did that earlier this year because we understand two things. There's the threat aspect, like Quinn mentioned. There's also the defending with AI. People who work in SOCs, in security operations, are already today using AI tools to do their job faster and better. So we're constantly adapting our cybersecurity training and exam as people use more and more AI in their day-to-day.
Great, thank you both. I have this question here from the exam side of thing. For the exams, why is memorizing API calls such a significant part of the exam? In real life, we refer to API documentation when building those API calls.
I love that question. It should never have been. It was terrible, and we are fixing it. Thank you for asking that question. And we didn't pay you $20, whoever asked that question, but thank you. It shouldn't be like that. In the real world, like you said, you have a browser window open with your API doc. So we're fixing that. In all these new certs, we're going to be giving you screenshots of documentation, things like that. So the whole idea is that you shouldn't have to memorize. It's of course helpful if you've used the API before. You won't have to see it for the first time, which is why we're giving you a specific list of technologies for every exam. But we're not expecting you to memorize the APIs for those.
And that goes in, just to carry on that goes in with the premise of network automation solutions. So we're not, to Francois's point, we're not testing point APIs. We're not testing individual components and having to memorize, 23 different products with a variety of different APIs. There are things that you should be expected to know, authorization mechanisms and how to work with those APIs. APIs have idiosyncrasies themselves. Sometimes you need to formulate data a certain way. Do I need to have some query parameters or different search strings or different ways of encoding? You should be, to Francois's point, you should be familiar with the APIs. You can't come into this cold, but the memorization piece is absolutely being fixed. And again, we're focusing on the entire solution, not just, hey, can you make this API call to this one product?
Great. Thank you both. A couple more questions here. As somebody who is kind of a beginner, but has some interest in Cisco automation, what skills would you say are most important to start a career or to get a job in cybersecurity or automation?
So that's interesting, because that's, in a way, that's two different questions, but they're not opposite to each other. Because cybersecurity versus network automation, I would say someone who specializes in cybersecurity probably works in a SOC type security operations world, whereas someone who works in network automation works in a network team and all that. But I don't want to sound like they're opposite either. Core skills, I think, are the skills that are in the CCNA. You need to understand networking. You can't do automation of networking, and you cannot secure networks if you don't understand networks. So CCNA level networking, I think, is the first step for both. And after that, you pick which one you do first between the CCNA Automation and the CCNA Cybersecurity, because we have a CCNA Cybersecurity, formerly known as the Cybersecurity Associate, and there's no real difference whichever one you do first. It's up to you, whichever one fits the best for you. Quinn, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I was just going to add, and there's no problem with having all 3 associate level certifications, right? Like the reason that we've given them, and Mubasher can probably chime in on this a little bit as well. The reason that we have called them the associates, because we call them that entry, and they're not entry levels, but it's a good foundational basis, is that it doesn't hurt to have knowledge across all 3 of them. Sure, at some point you need to have a specialization. You say, I am this kind of engineer. But having an understanding of networking, of automation programmability, and of cybersecurity really helps connect a lot of these systems and understanding the business needs and requirements and all the things that come with that, because you're going to be asked to span multiple domains across your professional tenure.
Exactly. And as you grow into your professional careers, you will need to understand the logic behind having different elements from data center, from service provider, from enterprise, and how do they interconnect with each other, and how to apply automation into different things, and how to apply cybersecurity into different things. And that's where all these different expertise or different associate level exams are really handy. So once you go through them, it also gives you an idea of where your interest is as a candidate and where do you want to grow in your career. So is it automation? Is it cybersecurity? Is it going to be networking? And then from there onwards, when you have done the associate level, we have dedicated tracks for enterprise, for data center, service provider, security, collaboration. So all of them are available at the professional level, and then you can jump from your associate to your professional levels and then to your expert level as you grow in your career. So yes, associates give you a very good foundation to start with, to understand where your interest is personally, and then move from there to your professional career, whichever track you want to take from there onwards.
A great question from attendee here for you, Quinn. Would like to know if a beard is required for full certification.
Not required. If you choose to grow one, that is your own personal preference. I obviously have my own thoughts around it, but as well as probably the rest of the candidate or the panel here. I mean, we all seem to be sporting something, so it does look like we are typecast. But no, a beard is not required. We welcome all individuals, bearded or not.
Great, thanks so much.
Goatees are a perfectly fine alternative.
Thank you all so much. As we wind down here, I do want to each give you all a platform once again just to talk to our attendees. Francois, I'm going to kick it to you first. Is there anything that you'd like to leave with our attendees today before we do wrap up?
All I can say is keep learning. Always be labbing is one of the things I love to say. You're going to need some hands-on for all of those exams. So get to your labs and start practicing, because there's a lot of certs out there and they're all worth it.
Mubasher, any last thoughts from you?
So for more details on all the things that we discussed today, I would recommend going to the roadmaps page and the announcement page for the new era in Cisco certifications. They have a lot of information in there to help you understand and help you take you to the resources that Quinn and Francois mentioned. And that's an opportunity for you to explore the limitless learning opportunities that Cisco delivers.
Quinn, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Don't be scared. The one thing that I will emphasize is the Cisco Learning Network, the community that is there, that has fostered the success of so many individuals. You're not alone. They can help with resources, guidance, someone to bounce an idea off of, get different perspectives. You're not alone in this. Myself, Francois, Mubasher, and various other Learn with Cisco individuals are in there helping out and contributing, as well as our very dedicated community members. So join the community. You're not alone, and use that as a definite resource that you can use to help you through your studies.
Great. Thank you all so much once again. Thank you to Quinn, Francois, Mubasher, our producer, James McDonough, and the whole team for bringing your knowledge to the Cisco community today. If you do have an additional question, we'll keep that Q&A panel open on Slido for a couple more minutes. We also ask that you please take a moment via Slido and fill out our post-event survey. That helps us prepare some future sessions that we're excited to bring you all each and every month. For even more tutorials, demonstrations, and future webinars, please visit the Cisco Learning Network. You can also follow up with any further questions, view resources from today's event, as well as today's recording through the post-webinar discussion thread on the Cisco Learning Network. Come talk to us. We'd be happy to help you out where we can. Once again, we thank everybody for joining us today, and we will see you next time on the Cisco Learning Network.